Good day. Way back in February, I stated that I was going to do my next tech review on open source first-person shooters. Well, since that time, I've gotten a number of emails asking me how I get footage from my arcade reviews, and I figured that that's a more important subject than just open source first-person shooters. Which is why today, we're going to take a look at MAME, or Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator. Now, MAME really is both the best and the most important emulator today, simply because it's the only real way that you can play a great deal of arcade games. Because, like with the NES, you could potentially go to a hock shop, find an NES cartridge, buy it, and play it. But you're not going to do that with an arcade cabinet. In fact, finding them on eBay is exceedingly difficult. And even if you do find them on eBay, they can run you a couple of thousand easy. I found one for like $6,000. And just to ship it, they wanted something like $250. And you gotta remember, this is for just one game. Now, before we actually get into the tutorial portion of this video, we're gonna first take a look at a little bit of background. MAME was created on February 5th of 1997 by Nicola Salmoria. The stated aim of MAME is to preserve gaming history and to prevent various games from being lost and forgotten. This is both a worthy goal and a very necessary goal because, really, many arcade games did not get a release outside of the arcade. So in order to actually play them, unless of course you have two warehouses, one full of money, and one for the actual floor space, you're not going to be able to play them. Now, there are some examples of games that will release in like an anthology like Metal Slug, but this is actually pretty rare. You didn't see like an Aliens anthology with like Aliens, the arcade game, and Alien 3 the gun, or AVP. So really, a lot of these games will get forgotten simply because they were released nowhere but the arcades, and it's not like you see arcade cabinets resold in like GameStop. As of current, MAME is capable of supporting 4,510 separate games. And really, that is no simple feat, because one must remember that every arcade cabinet was different from one another. Each game had its own system board, so essentially every game was its own separate system. So for every game, MAME has to emulate a unique system. I don't even want to imagine how hard that was to pull off. The program is fairly easy to use, but it's not as straightforward as a few other emulators out there. But there's nothing that should give you too much trouble. The first thing you need to do after you get your ROMs is put them in the actual ROM folder. With other emulators, you can really just drag and drop the ROM from anywhere, but MAME specifically looks in this folder for its games. Also, you need to make sure that the files are zip files, because if they are not, they won't work. Also, for some games, you're going to need a BIOS file. The best example I can give is the Neo Geo. So once you have your ROMs, you then need to bring up the program itself. Theoretically, when you first open it, it's going to be set to all games. You will immediately want to set it to available. That way you don't have to hunt through all of those trying to find the one or two that you actually have. But when you add a new game while the program is actually open, you're going to want to go to File, Audit All Games, and the program should do a search, and in theory you should be able to see the game you just added. Now you can go into each individual game and change the controller options, but to make things more efficient, go to Options, Default Game Options, Controllers, and then Enable Joystick Input. That way you don't have to go to each and every one and do it. Now MAME does support light gun controllers, but unfortunately I don't have one, so I can't really say too much about it. Now when you first start a game, you need to insert a coin. Now I don't know about you, but my machine doesn't have a coin slot. So what you're going to have to do is press the 5 key. When you do, virtual coins get inserted. Now if only I could do that with my bank account. After that, you select the number of players by using the 1, 2, 3, or 4 keys. The 1 key is also the start button. MAME does support save states. In order to save a game, you press Shift and then F7, and then one of the number keys. To load, you just press F7, and then one of the number keys you saved under. However, sometimes the save state will not work, or there will be some layering issues like you can see here. The save state worked, you just can't actually play the game. But still, most of the time, the save states will work. You can also pause the game, which is really quite important, by pressing the P key. If a game does not emulate properly, the little information box that shows up when you first start a game will usually tell you what's wrong with it. If you want to record a game with fraps, you're going to need to change the capture settings to half size, as you will generally get a better frame rate. If you go with full size, it will chug a little bit, especially if you get a lot of gameplay footage, but generally half size, it's always consistent. And really, I cannot tell too much difference between the footage exported by half size and the footage exported by full size. One of the other great things about MAME is that you can use it to potentially create your own arcade cabinet, because MAME can be used as a type of operating system. Making a MAME cabinet really is not all that difficult in theory. Really all you need is a low-end PC, a monitor, a controller, and some wood. And you could potentially create a MAME cabinet for about $200 to $300. Really, the big problem with a MAME cabinet is its size. Now you can make them fairly small or you can make them fairly large, but you still have to have a place to put it. And that's really the main problem. It's just finding space for an arcade cabinet. Now in the future, when I get a lot more space, I may actually do a tutorial on how to make a MAME cabinet. So with the background and tutorial out of the way, let's take a look at a couple of games just to see how great MAME really is.
Ready, go!
Ready! Fight!
Go!
And that is MAME. Really, in the world of emulation, it has got to be the best, because really it is the only way to play arcade games. I mean, think about this. Back in the day, you could go down and rent an NES game. You could go down and rent an SNES game. But you could not go down and rent, like, Alien 3 The Gun. Really, the only way you could play arcade games is you'd have to live near an arcade and hope they had it. And really, all of us missed out on something at some point. And with MAME, we can actually discover arcade games we never knew existed. So this is General Lotz wishing you good Cyberlip, good Batman, the arcade game, or whatever makes you happy.